Hey everybody, it's Greg LeBuff here with you. Listen, I want to welcome you to another Bad Guy Blueprint Breakdown. Today we're going to talk about a father that was stabbed in front of his children here in the city of Edmonton. It happened on February 4th. We're going to break this down. We're going to learn the lessons for how to predict violent behavior and prevent this from ever happening to you. Stick with me, back in 60 seconds for today's breakdown. The human violence that we fear the most is that which we call random and senseless. But in truth, it's neither. Violence always has purpose and meaning, at least to the predator. You see, predicting violent behavior is easier than predicting driving behavior.
Well within his kill zone. She is caught within his reactionary gap.
But we have this belief that violence is committed by some aberration unlike us. We must abandon that myth if we hope to take responsibility for our safety and attain any level of confidence in our ability to protect. There's one truth you must accept. There is no mystery of human behavior that cannot be solved inside of our hearts and inside of our heads. I'm Greg LeBuff. Welcome to the Bad Guy Blueprint Breakdown, your step-by-step guide to predicting violent behavior and awakening the protector within. All right, everybody, let's jump into today's breakdown. Now, a lot of times I like to have on the breakdowns, like to have video of this. Unfortunately, we don't have any video of this. We just have a short news article. But it's still worth talking about because I think there's a couple powerful insights. Now, let me just set the context here. A father, a 31-year-old man, father, was walking with his two kids who were, I think it's 6 and 5 years old, and they were walking downtown Jasper Ave when they were approached by another man. So the way I understand it is he was walking towards them. Now, this man, as he approached the father and the two kids, he began to make some comments about the kids. So his aggression, his comments were directed specifically at the kids. At this point in time, the father, who obviously, I'm assuming in that point in time, his intuition, he's listening to what this guy's saying. I'm sure he had an uneasy feeling about this guy who's now making threatening or disparaging comments about the kids. He moves over and puts himself between this guy and his kids, which is obviously a smart move, right? At which point, the man becomes increasingly more agitated. He grabs the father. Whether he had the knife already in his hand or he pulled the knife out, and he begins to stab the father multiple times. And then he flees the scene. Now, the father who's stabbed, him and his kids managed to cross the street, get to a gas station where they call 911. And the reports we have are that his injuries were serious, but not life-threatening. Now, really, this is all the details that we have. But I had a couple of my clients ask me about this story, and I kind of did a breakdown on it with them. And there's a couple interesting points that I want to make. First is, again, the randomness of this all. Now, I know that word scares a lot of people, right? It's random. But you got to remember that predicting violent behavior, like it says in my intro, predicting violent behavior is easier than predicting driving behavior. And we accurately and effectively predict driving behavior every single day. And so, even though we look at this, why do we throw the term random in it? Well, we do that because in this situation, the two individuals were unknown to each other. So was it random in that sense? Yes, absolutely. It was random in that sense. But what we have to focus in on is that, was it random in what the guy was going to do? Could it have been predicted? Now, you might say, well, how did he know that the guy was going to stab him? Well, okay, how did he know to put himself in between this man and his kids? We say, well, because the bad guy, the attacker, was making threats to the kids. Okay, so what you're identifying is what we call a PIN, a pre-incident indicator, right? So you're seeing a PIN, what he was saying. Now, understand that one of the lessons that I'm trying to convey with people is how do we measure, how do we read aggression? Well, there's 3 different areas that will help us predict violent behavior. The first is body language. The second is communication, how they are saying things, right? Interpersonal communication. And the third is their behavior patterns. Well, in this situation, just from the written article, we know that the attacker walks up and he begins saying things about the kids. Now, was he issuing threats? Did he say, I'm going to fucking stab these kids? Now, we don't know for sure, but I don't think that's what he was saying. It says that he started to make remarks about the kids. Now, was he saying that, fucking kids, they're noisy, they're this, they're that, whatever it is? Now, clearly, the comments he was making had a negative tone to them. Right? Now, were they direct threats? Probably not, maybe, but I doubt it. But they were disparaging. And what the father picked up on was the tone. Remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So the father picked up on the tone, and in the tone, he read that there was some danger there. His intuition would have been sending different alarm signals, right? He would have had apprehension. He would have had a gut instinct. He might have had fear. And so that caused him to take an action. Now, good for him, he took an action. So I just want you to recognize that as this guy approached, what I'm willing to bet, though, is if the father was at all aware of the surroundings, he would have seen or recognized in the body language of this individual, he probably, from the second he saw him, maybe a block or two away, maybe 30 feet away, whatever it is, he would have recognized, fuck. I bet the little hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. And how do we know, how can I make this prediction? Well, because we're talking about an event horizon. And we've all had that where we walk out to a street and you see somebody, you go, fuck, this guy's going to come over. This guy's going to ask for money. This guy's going to try to sell me something. We have all felt this 1,000 times, if not 1,000,000 times. And we're like, look away, pretend to ignore him. I don't want to have to talk. You can walk down the mall and they have those little kiosks in the middle of the mall where people are trying to, squirt fucking hand lotion on you and make you smell soaps and sell you shit. And you can see from a mile away whether these people are going to target you or not. They're going to say something to you. They're going to approach you. And you can feel it, right? How do you do that? Because you're reading the body language. Right? You're reading the body language. You're seeing it, right? Plus, you got a context to the situation. The context determines the content. So this father's walking with his kids, and he looks up. If he's at all aware, he sees this guy approaching, and he already has a bad vibe. How do I know? Because a person that is willing to stab you, a person that has problems with kids, he was telegraphing that he didn't just all of a sudden develop a problem with those kids and decide to say something and decide the father in that split second. He was already in a state where he was capable of carrying this out. Does that track for everybody? So when we look at this, we have to recognize that to see the blueprint, because the father could have moved the children to the other side of him, or he could have taken the kids and said, let's hold up for a second, moved them off the sidewalk a little bit. He could have started to cross the street. Now, maybe he couldn't have. I wasn't there. I'm just saying we have to learn from this and try to see different places where we can prevent this type of situation or greatly reduce the threat of this situation. And if you understand the aggression continuum, which is just a thermometer looking type chart that we have, you know something. The earlier that you can take action in any event, the more likely and more successful that action is going to be. The longer you wait for that situation to mutate or to reveal the true nature of it, the harder and less effective strategies, tactics, and tools become. So I just want you to be aware of your surroundings. And when you see somebody, you're out walking, you got your kids with you, it's the middle of the afternoon, and you see somebody from a block away that's walking, and they may not even be looking at you, but something about their body language, they're walking in it, and they look agitated, they look unstable, they look, you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about. Don't go into denial. Don't rationalize it, justify it, minimize it, make excuses, or flat out deny what you're seeing. Okay? But it happens the way it happens. He approaches. He starts to say something about the kids. The father feels the intuition. He listens to his instincts, and he steps in front of his children. Now, pause right there. Why did he step in front of his children? He stepped in front of them because there was a threat. Now, I'm going to repeat that. He stepped in front of them because there was a threat. Don't think for a second that he stepped in front of his kids because he thought maybe there could be a threat. He stepped in front of his kids because the threat was real. He acknowledged it. He said, this is fucking not right. This guy's not right. He's threatening my kids. He stepped in front of them because there was a threat. Now, when you step in front of somebody, a stranger who's threatening your kids, who you feel in that moment, it is reasonable for you to assume this person is an imminent danger to your and your children's safety, and he stepped in front of them. I submit that when he stepped in front of them, he should have taken a physical action. He should have stepped in front of them and put hands on this guy pushed this guy, destabilized this guy, took control of this guy as he told his kids to move, as he got past this guy. Now, am I saying he needed to hit this guy, punch this guy, stab this guy, elbow this guy, eye gouge this guy, bottle, no. I don't know. The context determines the content. What I am saying, and the point that I think is worth discussing, is do something because it is something. He stepped in front of him. Now, here's the thing. The father got stabbed, and people go, wow, so great, right? He became the human shield, and he took the stabbing and saved his children. That's awesome. But this good man, this father, I don't believe, let me rephrase this. There's more you can do, and I personally don't want, I would sacrifice my life for my kids. I'd take a bullet for my kids, I'd get stabbed for my kids, I'd die for my kids. But I don't want to voluntarily have my kids watch their father assist in his own murder. Does this make sense? This father, his defensive strategy worked, in the sense that his defensive strategy was, I'm willing to die for my kids. That's great. He stepped in front of his kids, he got stabbed multiple times and was willing to do that. I would like to see good people like this, who have the courage of conviction, who are willing to die and protect what they love. I would rather see them weaponized, in the sense that when he stepped in front of his kids, he seized the initiative from this guy. The bad guys have the initiative. We've talked about this many times. The bad guy determines when, where, the intensity of the attack, the tools that they bring to the attack. They are determining all of this stuff. When that father recognized that there was a threat, he could have seized the initiative, stepped in between him and the kids, and with just a minimal amount of training, he could have destabilized this individual, put this person into a position of control, got his kids to move past, and then he also could have withdrawn from that situation. We got to remember, he was in it. He didn't have a chance to back off and withdraw at that point. This attacker left him no choice. The second the attacker got aggressive and started issuing the threats, and it became evident in that moment that the father couldn't remove, de-escalate, or deter, he had to defend. Well, don't defend with just saying, here's my body, I'm the human shield, stab and shoot me, please, and murder me in front of my children as I voluntarily assist you by doing nothing. And trust me, I am not trying to take anything away from this father. He was super brave. His plan worked exactly according to what his plan was. My comments and my desire to break this down is to say, I would rather you not have to, I'd rather your plan didn't end in your death, not by assisted murder. Does that make sense? If I'm going to get stabbed protecting my children, I want to be the one that gets stabbed. I'd rather be the one that gets shot. I want them to be safe, but a couple things have to happen. One, I will engage the threat. The second it's a threat, I'm going to engage the threat. The context will determine the content, but I'm going to engage that threat, and I am going to go on the attack. Now, there's a level of this, right? Whether or not I just subdue it. I had a crackhead at the gas station, was assaulting a businessman, walking out, went to assault him. Right, he and ended up having a hammer. I did not get in my car and drive away. I did not ignore it. I did not just take a witness description. I had the physical skills and ability that before this crackhead, this guy who was completely out of his mind, physically big guy, before he could assault this guy, I intervened. I didn't have to gouge his eyes. I didn't have to headbutt him. I didn't have to use all of my skill. I was able to grab the guy, put him on the ground, and control him because I have 27 plus years of weaponizing. But it wasn't my physical skill that allowed me to do it. It's because I saw the whole thing fucking happening. I saw the buildup. So I was able to take actions well ahead of the reactionary curve. And so I just needed a little action, got a massive result. It's like I just needed a little lever to move this big object. Now, if I didn't see any of that coming, I would have been reacting. It would have required much higher levels of force. But in certain situations, when that is necessary, when the context demands it, I can do that. And this is what I want you to see. This guy did not have to get stabbed. Now, maybe he got stabbed. It could have still happened, but he didn't have to get stabbed. He didn't just have to be the human meat shield. His kids now live with the fact that they saw their father being stabbed, and in that moment, what they could have most possibly believed was being stabbed to death. He was being murdered right in front of them. That's got trauma in it. They'd be far less traumatized if they saw their father put this person on the ground in a controlled position as they moved away, and then he either held him and then tamed him to police got out, or he then removed himself with no stabbing. Now, I don't know the full context, but if that father felt and the threat was high level, he could have put out a quick, eye shot, could have put positive pressure, slammed the guy in the side of the building, threw a couple knees or elbows, and had the guy down on the ground. Guy would have been fine, and then removed himself, and he would have bought himself more time to escape. So I'm just saying, I'm not giving exact commentary on what he should have done because I wasn't there. But I want you to see that there's a difference. But this all comes backwards to recognizing moments when you go, oh, fuck, this is violence. The threat is now there. I'll use one last analogy, a driving analogy. When you see the potential for an accident in front of you, but you see it before the critical moment, you take an action to avoid it. Because there's lots of times when we see the accident, the potential accidents unfolding in that moment where you have fractions of seconds to make a decision, and you want to make a decision and take definitive action. That's what will either A, avoid the accident altogether, or B, mitigate the damage. It is the times when we go into denial, we don't see it or we don't want to see it, and all of a sudden the car is smashing into us, glass is shattering, people are flying, we're rolling, trauma is now ensued, and there's nothing we can do. It's far, far more difficult to affect the outcome of that situation once it's already past the critical mass and things are happening. All right, everybody. So I guess the final takeaways are this. This type of stuff happens. It happens every single day to really good people. We all, as parents, have that desire and conviction that we are willing to die for our children. We will take bullets. We'll do anything to keep our kids safe. I submit to you that make sure that your defensive strategies go beyond being the human meat shield that forces them to watch your murder. We want to do everything we can to prevent this, and that's kind of what I think my takeaways are for this. That make sure that you have the strategies to not only recognize and read the situation accurately, but when you recognize beyond a shadow of a doubt that the threat is imminent and there is in fact a threat there, be proactive, be offensive in your mindset, protect yourself, your family, your loved ones, because at the end of the day, in violent situations, someone's going home and someone's potentially going to the morgue. And I want you and your family to return home safe. All right, everybody, that is it. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Bad Guy Blueprint breakdown. Please like, share, follow, comment. Let me know your thoughts. And stay safe, stay weaponized. We will chat again soon.